What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Pink. And as always, big thank you to Herman. And as far as I can tell, the only other track I have ready to go is the first tune from her 2003 album, Try This, which is Trouble. Now, if I'm missing something, or if you could send me a zip file, Herman, with any other tunes that you made available from this album that I couldn't find, that would be great. But yes, for the time being, we have the first track from this album ready to go. And Trouble, it's a single word title. Those are tougher to get a read on, but certainly the concept is pretty clear. Sometimes though, and to quote John Lewis, sometimes there's good trouble, meaning trouble that is rebellious or resistant to conformity or authority, and thus being different and being mischievous or a troublemaker is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, more fundamentally, the term is, I suppose, negative in that it is, upsetting the apple cart, making waves, rocking the boat, doing things that do not allow for calm, tranquility, or simple order. So again, given what I've heard from Pink so far, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the more positive connotations of the word. Obviously, I'll try to catch what I can, but yes, I suppose more than some single word titles, this one suggests a lot given the limited amount of knowledge I have of her work thus far. So let's give it a listen. This is Pink, the track is Trouble, and it's the first tune from her 2003 album, Try This.
And my fingers, I'll be June with diamonds and gold, but that ain't gonna help me now. You think you're right, but you were wrong. You tried to take me, but I knew all along you can take me for a ride. 'Cause I'm a fool now, so you better trouble, yeah, trouble now. I'm trouble, y'all. I disturb my town. I'm trouble. Yeah.
the most rocking I've heard a tune of hers, and not just because there was very prominent guitar, especially in the second half where it was unleashed and was jamming out a bit, but just overall it felt more like a edgy pop rock tune than any of her work I've heard thus far. And again, I knew going, or maybe not going into this, but certainly by this time in the Pink deep dive, that she has some different flavors and that her sound evolved, especially after maybe the first couple albums when she began to exert more stylistic or creative control over her composing, her songwriting. But yeah, definitely the most rockish I've heard her tracks thus far, and ultimately it felt, maybe like a, not like a garbage tune necessarily, but a bit more in that direction than the R&B stuff from the beginning and from the, artful, heavier types of tunes that I've heard from her, like Family Portrait. Woof. I mean, that track literally, like, I re-listened to it a couple times since the reaction. It still, like, makes me extremely emotional. But yeah, this one is a bit more cathartic, a bit more fun, very energetic. Lyrically, I'm actually not sure because, like, it does seem like, she's saying she's trouble and trouble kind of follows her around, and, all the bejeweled fingers she has, they're not going to help in that regard. And what was it, like, trouble in her town? So it feels like, she just exudes trouble, but it does feel like it's maybe both positive and negative. Like, she's trouble, yo. Like, she's trouble, and you better be ready for it. But also trouble, like, she can't stay out of trouble, or she can't, help but run into problems because of her nature. There's the lines about, like, going into outer space, so I feel like maybe that's making the point that, even if she went out there, which is so far removed from everyday life and so on, there would still be trouble. Maybe it's, an astronomical level of trouble. Maybe it's just a convenient rhyme. I'm not quite sure. So I don't know how it all stitches together, but it sounds like it's her identity and she's embracing it, or at least acknowledging it and not running from it. But maybe it is a bit of positive and negative at the same time. So either way, I enjoy her vocals, which, especially as it got later in the tune, got really fiery and raspy and, sort of down in the throat, which I enjoyed, but also still with some, melodic precision, but definitely like a different type of singing than on those older R&B tunes or, the heavier emotional tunes that I've heard. So I guess in that way, displaying her vocal diversity or variety. But yeah, definitely an engaging tune and more of a like power rock track than I would have expected. So as I said, I'm looking forward to more. Again, Herman, no rush, but if you could just either point me to things that you've already made available that I wasn't able to find when I went looking for this reaction, or sort of consolidate some things and put them into a zip file, that would be very helpful. Obviously, I'm keen to continue with Pink, so in any case, let me know what you think of this tune. I will see you next time. Peace.